Welcome to Manifest, hosted by international evangelist, teacher, and author Perry Stone. Enjoy unique insight into prophetic and practical truth. It's time to feast on fresh manna, so get ready to be blessed and encouraged. And now, here is your host and teacher, Perry Stone.
Happy to have you join me today on the Manifest telecast. Bill Cloud is with me, and we're going to be, again, talking to you about America, and we're going to delve into this aspect in this program of the idea of how curses that were established in the Old Testament are now being activated in the United States. And we've built the foundation. I hope you caught the past two programs. We've laid a foundation out for this. But one of the things, Bill, that we're going to do is we're going to talk about how Israel and America are connected spiritually. People have often said, is America in prophecy? Well, you can't find it directly, but you can find it by patterns. And Bill, I've got some notes here if you want to go through those. How is Israel and America paralleled by the patterns of both nations, the ancient nation and America? Go through some of these, and there's probably some more you could add, by the way.
Well, I was just going to say that just right off the top of my head, you already mentioned, I think, that 1607, you know, was the first permanent English colony. Of course, that's 400 years. There's a pattern there. By the way,
May 14th.
I was about to say May 14th is when 144 men actually established what was Jamestown. Of course, James is just the English version of Jacob. You know, so we could say it's Jacobstown. So,
and Israel is reestablished on May 14th, 1948. 144,000 Jewish men in the Book of Revelation.
Right.
And that's just one oddity.
That's just
one oddity.
The shot heard around the world, fired on April 19th, 1775, was during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Of course, that's tied to Passover. They had to eat the Passover in Egypt with their loins girded, their shoes on their feet, their staff in their hand, because they had to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And of course, who are the men who fired the shot heard around the world? We called them Minutemen. And so there's all these parallels. David was king for 40 years. Solomon followed him, and he was king for 40 years. And after Solomon's death and Rehoboam becomes king, the nation divided into North and South. In 1781, for all practical purposes, the American Revolution ended. America was secured a place among the nations. If you go from 1781, counting forward 80 years, corresponding to David's reign and Solomon's reign, you come to 1861. What happened in 1861? The nation divided into North and South, and on and on and on and on.
And then also, Israel had 13 tribes. America originally had 13 colonies.
Right.
We discovered that Israel was originally ruled by kings, and America, in its early founding, before the Revolution, was controlled by a king, the kings of England and Britain, divided between the North and the South. Israel's laws is founded on the Torah. Our actual laws that America is based on are found in the Scripture, Judeo-Christian, you know,
I think, Perry,
going.
that if anyone who really studies American history, they can't do that and come away thinking that America was just some accidental thing, or it was based on American ingenuity or, you know, good old American know-how.
Right.
If you study American history, you have to come away thinking that the sovereign God of the universe raised this nation up, but he patterned it after things that we find in ancient Israel.
Absolutely.
May I read
Absolutely.
a quote here
Sure,
from one of our past presidents? This is from Theodore Roosevelt. He said this: "The teachings of the Bible are so interwoven and entwined with our whole civic and social life that it would be literally, I do not mean figuratively, I mean literally, impossible for us to figure to ourselves what life would be if these teachings were removed." And so that's just one of many quotes of our forefathers who said, the God of the Bible is the one who raised up this nation with those patterns. But, and I think this is where we're going, also with the responsibility that he gave to ancient Israel.
Now, one thing I want to do right now is I'm going to show you how in the ancient tabernacle of Moses, the tabernacle was a large rectangle, and if we start from the east, we're going to show you, we'll show you a picture of the sacred furniture. The first piece of furniture is the brass altar, and the main substance was fire on the altar. You go forward, and you're going to come to the brass laver, and the main substance was water. Now, when you come into the holy place, to the south is the 7-branch candlestick whose main substance was oil. If you go directly north of the candlestick in the tabernacle, you'll discover the table of shewbread with 12 types of bread. The main thing used to make the bread were grains. Then if you go forward in the center of the tabernacle in the holy place, you'll discover the altar of incense. And the main substance there had to be coals that were used and the incense used on the altar. Then there was this great veil just past the golden altar, and then you would come into the Holy of Holies. Into one piece of furniture was located there. It was the Ark of the Covenant of solid gold. Now, I have a map, you'll see it, but if you take a map of the United States and you see we're going to make it a complete rectangle here, and you lay out the tabernacle furniture in a map of the United States and start at the east, here's what gets interesting. It tells you the history of those states as it relates in a connection to the tabernacle furniture. For example, the altar, or the brass altar on the outside, has 3 fires on it, and this represents the early revivals in America that came into Murphy, North Carolina, that came into Kentucky, and came into Tennessee. And those were the states, if you'll check our early history, where the great fire of revival occurred. Then if you go from the altar and you go forward, you're going to come to the Mississippi River where the laver would sit. And that's called the waterway of America, and the main substance was water in the laver. If you continue to go, this is exactly the way the tabernacle furniture would be laid out in the tabernacle. You come into the holy place and you discover the menorah, and it has 7 branches on it, and you have to have oil. Texas has 7 major areas, 7 major counties, huge counties, provinces is a better way of saying it, and the main substance with Oklahoma and Texas is oil. All right, that's how they've made their money. Go directly north, you come to the breadbasket of America, which is the Dakotas, Nebraska, etc., and that's exactly where the table of shewbread would be. And a matter of fact, there's 12 different kinds of bread, and you can find there's at least 12 states that have agriculture connected very heavy to the United States. Interesting. Then Colorado would be where the golden altar is. Of course, that's where the smoke was. I don't want to get into the negative side of that. We can make a joke there, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, the Colorado River was called the Red River. The incense was red in color. All right. Well, look at this. On a satellite map, you find the Continental Divide. That would be your veil. And how was California founded? By the gold rush, and gold in the Ark of the Covenant, everything on it was gold, including a solid mercy seat. Now, this is interesting because it reveals to you how God raised up America, and the states where certain events happened, or the main substance that helped make that state wealthy, is connected to a substance that was on the tabernacle furniture that would fit there. Now, is that a coincidence? If it is, it's a very odd one, all right? Now, here's where it gets also interesting. If you take the 12 tribes of Israel and you put them in the camp in the time of Moses around the tabernacle, you discover that there was 3 tribes to the north, 3 to the south, 3 to the east, and 3 to the west. However, there was a leading tribe in the north. The leading tribe in the north is Dan. The leading tribe to the south was Reuben. The leading tribe to the east was Judah. And the leading tribe to the west was Manasseh. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold up a picture here, and I'm going to show you on this picture how this would work. All right, here we go. Here is the encampment of Israel. Here's the tabernacle itself in the middle. And then you've got 3 tribes, north, south, east, and west. And once again, the head tribe by numbers is Dan to the north. Dan's emblem early was an eagle. Then you have the tribe of Judah to the east. Their tribal emblem was the lion. You have Reuben to the south, and Reuben's emblem was actually a man. Then you have, which is very interesting, on this side, which is the west side of the tabernacle, the head tribe was Manasseh, or we would say Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh on this side. Now, watch carefully what happens when I overlay the tabernacle area with the 4 main federal buildings in Washington, D.C., because the Washington Mall is a large rectangle. You've been there and I've been there. It's very large, okay? But there's 4 federal buildings, and I'm going to show you the federal building and an emblem that represents them, all right? And we actually have one of these that has the emblem on it. This one doesn't, but the emblem is with it, all right? In the Washington Mall, in the square of the rectangle of the mall, to the north is the White House, whose emblem is the eagle. The president cannot speak without the emblem of the eagle at a pulpit. Over here on the right side, or a podium, I should say, not a pulpit. Over here on the right side is the Capitol building. The lawgiver is the lion. In the book of Genesis, Judah is the lawgiver. Our lawgivers are symbolic of the lions, all right? And there's actually lions outside.
There's a fountain out there.
A fountain.
That's got lions on the four corners.
That's right, a fountain that has the lions on the four corners. Jefferson is the humanist. Now, he was a deist. He believed there was a, people say he was an atheist. No, he wasn't. He believed there was a God, but he did believe that God left the affairs of men. Right. So that's the difference. But he was be represented by the man. The really odd one is over here. This is the Lincoln Memorial. All right, now the Lincoln Memorial on this end is interesting because the battle, and we do have, by the way, our set, if you've noticed our set, we have a lot of early American stuff on the set only because, no particular reason, then we're doing a study on the history of America, okay? But the Battle of Bull Run, now remember, what's the emblem of Manasseh? A bull.
It's the bull.
The Bull Run was the battle that started the Civil War in the area of Manassas, which is a form of Manasseh, or the tribe of Manasseh.
Well, actually, the North called it the Battle of Bull Run. The South called it the Battle of Manassas, which is the Greek transliteration of Manasseh.
And that is the emblem. And in Lincoln, and now if all this was switched, none of it would work.
We need to point out, too, that here, Perry, in this area, corresponding to where the tabernacle was, that's where the Washington Monument stands.
Yeah.
Of course, that's dedicated to the father of our country.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was originally going to be a temple-like structure.
Most people don't know that, but in the beginning, they were going to build a large temple there, which really would have made this even more bizarre, because you'd have had the tabernacle picture of the tabernacle facility on the mall with the emblems. Now, some people say, well, somebody probably pre-planned that to be that way. Well, they did. They went through a lot of detail to pre-plan it that way. Now, here's my point. We have patterns of ancient Israel. This is the reason I'm saying that, because in the Word of God, it makes it very, very clear that if Israel did not hearken to the command of God and disobeyed the voice of God, these curses would come upon them. Now, Bill, we didn't get into this on last week's program, but on page 3 of our outline here, there are 9 curses. Now, I want everybody to hear these, and you tell me if some of these don't fit right now. God said, if you don't hearken to my voice and obey my word, I will appoint over you, number 1 on the list is terror. Have we been in a war on terror since 2001? The answer is yes. You will plant your seed in vain, meaning that your harvest and your crops won't produce. Look at the state of California with this terrible drought they're in. Number 3, your enemies will raise up and defeat you. Well, look at that one. I don't think I have to explain how that this great country that you used to be able to, for example, we just went and did a mission, a rescue mission, and the hostages were killed. And this is not a blame of our SEALs, who are great men, but that shows you, it's just like things fall apart. We're not as great as we used to be in our own eyes.
Our allies don't respect us.
I was going to point that out.
And our enemies do not fear us.
And it's not our military men, by the way. Our military men are great men. I have great respect. If anybody needs a pay raise in Washington, it's not the Congress and the Senate, it's the military. It's all those troops that are out there. Anyway, the heavens will burst, there'll be no rain, there'll be droughts. That's in chapter 26, verse 19. That is happening even now. The land, the trees and the land will not yield the produce, chapter 26, verse 20. Now, these are curses going to go to Israel for totally breaking covenant and breaking commandments of God. Your highways will be empty. Beasts will roam the land. You will lose livestock. Your bread will be diminished. There'll be rationing of food. Your cities will be waste and sanctuaries will be left empty. Now, you look at cities which used to be great cities like Detroit. They are empty. There are blocks and blocks, and it's not just there, that are sitting absolutely empty. And you can buy a house for $100 because nobody wants to live in it. It's just horrible. And we're not picking on Detroit. Detroit is a great city.
It's just an example.
It's an example, though, of an area where you see what God spoke coming to pass. I preach outside of there a lot of times in Toledo. They're wonderful people. There's some great Christians that live up there that have had to go through some very, very hard times. But my point is, these are the curses. Now, let me go and say this to you. I know what some of you are thinking. Perry, that's Old Testament. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law. Let's stop right there and say, We are under no curses as believers because we are living a redeemed life and following Him. So we have nothing to fear with any of this. We may live in a country that has to suffer with it, but God provides for His people. So we have been redeemed in that aspect. But then there's the blessing of the law. So has Christ done away with the blessing?
No, we want that.
We want, that's exactly right. We'll quote those blessing verses, but the other we want to leave alone. Now, Bill, let me show you something here. Is there still curses that were established in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, still on the earth? And are they still here? Yes. Let me give you 5. Does a snake still crawl on its belly? Yes. Genesis 3:14, it was cursed to do that. Number 2, does a woman still have pain in childbirth? The answer is yes. Genesis 3:16, that was part of the curse in Eden. Number 3, does thorns and normal plants still grow together? Genesis 3:18. Guess what? They do. That was part of the curse from Eden. Does the animal kingdom still have conflict? That's part of the fall of man. That straightens up and corrects itself in the millennial reign of Christ if you read the prophecies of the Bible, all right? Then, does death still come to all mankind? Yes. Does man still go back to dust when he dies? Yes. Everything I've just listed for you is part of God saying, there's a curse now, there's a curse now, there's a curse now, because you broke covenant, you broke commandment, you ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and now you pay the consequences for it. That's my point, Bill, about when we say, or we hear people say, wait a minute, when you say that America has sinned and God's disfavor is coming, it's a curse. See, again, a curse is, and I don't want you to get this mental picture. God has a baseball bat, He's up there beating people in the head, trying to kill everybody. That is a misconception. That's not what curse is. In fact, bless is to favor or show grace toward. The blessing of God is grace and favor showed towards you. Curse, and we did a word study on this, is to stop the flow like jamming up a stream where nothing flows, where nothing produces, where nothing grows. When you have a dried up stream, things die. So what happens in the curse, it institutes death. Trees don't grow. Cattle don't live. Sheep don't produce. And so this is all a part of it. Now, Bill, kind of take it from there and let's expound on this concept of as Israel was blessed, America has had the same blessings, but as Israel would come under disfavor, we're seeing the very things God spoke about in ancient Israel happen here because we have this link. We have a link.
We need to remember that God told His people, those that He had blessed, that He set before them blessings and curses, life and death. And what did He say? I want you to choose life.
Right.
But what does that infer? They could choose death. They could choose to go the route that is cursed. So that reminds me of something that happened in relation to God blessing His people. And it involves Balaam, who was called 3 times to come and curse Israel. But what does he say? I can't curse them. God has blessed them. Because you can't curse that which God has blessed. However, here's what we see from the beginning. We see it in the story of Balaam. That the adversary, the serpent in the garden, Balaam there in Moab, can devise a lure and a trap to seduce God's people away from living a life that is in concert with God's will, whereby they bring a curse upon themselves. Right? Because that's what happened. The daughters of Midian went into the camp. The men of Israel who were blessed saw the daughters of Midian. They were seduced by them. They went and committed the sin of Baal Peor, which is exactly what the man and woman did in the garden, eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So that is to say, where America is concerned, we have enjoyed these blessings because, and this is what I'm absolutely convinced of, because our founders and our framers, imperfect though they may be, believed in the perfect principles contained in the Scripture, and therefore they laid the foundations for a nation that would operate and function based on the principles that are contained in this Word, and that's why we reap the blessings. But now we are abandoning that. We're going after the other fruit. We're going after the daughters of Midian. We're going after the things that look good in our own eyes. And what are we doing? It's not so much that, and this is what I think, it's not so much that God is cursing us as much as it is because we've abandoned Him and His ways. We're bringing the curse upon ourselves. And we have to keep this in mind. God spoke those things to His people, not those people out there.
Yeah, and you know, in the Bible, we mentioned a little bit of this in the book where God lifts his hand.
Right.
And we think when God puts his hand on someone, when he puts his hand on it, it's always a blessing. The hand of the Lord came upon Elijah, and the hand of the Lord came upon Ezekiel and lifted him away and showed him the future. But when God begins to lift his hand, what he basically does is he's lifting his favor, and he's saying, it's like your kids. Your kids get rebellious, and you know they're going to get in trouble, and they're headed there. We'll say, hey, go ahead. You think you know it all? Let's see you do it.
That's exactly
Then
right.
they get in trouble, and what do? They come back and say, can you help me?
That's right.
So God sometimes lifts his hands on a nation. He did it to Israel. And he'll say, you want to worship Moloch? You want to worship idols? You want to act like the nations? I'll let you do that. But there'll be a day when all hell breaks loose and your economy falls apart and you don't have food to eat because of the droughts. You're going to come back to me. And the thing about God that I love, and I mean this sincerely, I love many things about God, is how he's just so merciful, and he doesn't hold it over people if they really repent.
Right.
If they say, God, I really am sorry. I really need you. He's not saying, well, let me teach you another 2 or 3 weeks before. No. The moment you really sincerely come to him, he's merciful, and that's the thing that's so great.
The father ran to his son who was returning to him.
In the prodigal story?
Luke 15, right.
Yes, sir, and that's good. Now, in concluding this out, Bill and I got together, and we felt like that it was time for us, for the first time in years, to write a book. And this book is called, as far as we know it's called, we're still working on the title, but it deals with America's broken covenant with God and how it's affecting us in detail. I want you to get this book and get also the 2 CD album I just did called Living in the Shadow of the Beast. This is a great prophetic series. I want you to get both of these. I'll be back in a moment.
America is in serious trouble. This nation has fallen to the same snares that entrapped great superpowers of the past. And now in 2015, America is racing toward a breaking point. We are now following the exact footsteps of fallen empires such as Rome and Greece. Will we return to God or continue in this downward spiral? America's founders left a trail of documents warning how and why America's possible future demise would be internal and not from an outside force. Today, as our leaders now redefine God's laws and ignore his warnings, where will this lead us? And what warning signs are flashing now that we must heed? In this new prophetic book, America's Controversy with God's Covenant, Perry Stone and Bill Cloud combine their prophetic insight and pen this manifesto to America. A message every concerned American must read and respond to before the hedge is removed and spiritual darkness blankets the nation. Due to its content, this book will not be available in bookstores. This book is part of package offer ACC 115. Perry has also just completed an urgent prophetic update on 2 audio CDs, In the Shadow of the Final Beast. These CDs contain new research and information exposing the real reasons behind the ISIS beheadings and the ancient demonic spirit emerging over Iraq and Syria. Perry unlocks the book of Daniel and John's apocalyptic prophecies with new insight he has never taught on Manifest. He reveals how the coming wars will not be geopolitical, but will be wars over religious ideology centering on the deity of Jesus Christ. This is a stunning expose every believer should hear. All indications point to the foundation being laid for the man called the Antichrist to arise from the Middle East and not from Europe, as many teachers have taught. The new book by Perry Stone and Bill Cloud, America's Controversy with God's Covenant, as well as Perry's 2 CD prophetic update, In the Shadow of the Final Beast, are now available by calling toll-free 1-888-21-BREAD. That's 1-888-212-7323. Or order online at perrystone.org. You may also send your donation of $30 or more to Perry Stone, Post Office Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee 37320. When you order, request offer ACC 115 and include your donation of $30 or more as your support of the Manifest broadcast. As always, thank you for watching Manifest with Perry Stone. We look forward to hearing from you today.
Thank you for joining me today on the Manifest telecast. And the book by Bill Cloud and I, we haven't got together and written a book probably in somewhere between 12 to 15 years. I've lost count. And this book, you've got to read it through its entirety. It almost reads like a manifesto, an expose and a manifesto. But it's very important, especially for those of you who love America, but you see deterioration morally, spiritually, politically, and it's going to help you understand where we're going. Also, the 2-audio CD I was reading the book of Daniel, what happened, and I started seeing patterns develop and emerge that I never saw before, and I realized what the battle in the Middle East is really all about. We always say it's about Israel, it's about Jerusalem, that's true, but there's one thing that seldom gets taught on, and this is going to expose where things are about to go and what you have to do about it as a believer. So it's not available in bookstores anywhere. Please take the opportunity to order this online or 1-888-21-BREAD, etc. You've got the information on that. We always want to conclude the program with sharing with you that we're coming to Irvine, California. Irvine, I guess, is the pronunciation for there. Orange County, Free Chapel, Orange County. This is a great church. We were there a year ago, February the 27th. That's a Friday night. Now, we start on Friday night, 2 services Saturday, 4 on Sunday. All the folks from that area, I'm going to have, now look, in some of our bigger meetings, these conferences, we have a partners meeting Sunday afternoon. So all my partners, when I come to an area where we have a night service, a Sunday night service, please remember, before service, about 2 hours before service, I meet with partners in our bigger conferences. So please keep that in mind. We're going to do that in Orange County. Abba's House, Hickson, Tennessee, Wednesday, March the 4th. The Church Alive, another conference. We're going to have a partners meeting there Sunday afternoon as well. Conway, Arkansas, Friday through Sunday, March the 6th through the 8th. And then Potter's House in Denver, Colorado, Sunday at 9/11. There won't be a partners meeting there, but I'm asking as many of you that can to attend. Victory and Truth Ministries in Bucyrus, Ohio, Wednesday, March 25th. And as you know, the Great Warrior Fest is coming up. We only have a very few seats left for Warrior Fest, so please register online. You know, everybody between the age of 18 to 35 can register once, and I'm going to do a drawing Saturday night for a trip to Israel, a free trip with me in November. I'll be seeing you there. God bless you.
This March, a generation of warriors is assembling at Omega Center International in Cleveland, Tennessee, arming themselves for battle with teachings from Perry Stone, Damon Thompson, and Mark Casto, with music from Eddie James, Bryn Waddell, and OCI's First Hearts. Register free online at www.ociministries.org. Warrior Fest 2015, where lambs become lions.
Make this your year to feel the history, taste the culture, experience the antiquity, walk where the modern touches the ancient. Sign up now to join Perry Stone November 23rd through December 2nd for an unforgettable tour of Israel. For more information, visit perrystone.org or call 1-888-321-3629. Make this your year for a trip of a lifetime.
Now available in bookstores everywhere. Perry Stone's prophetic book, Deciphering End Time Prophetic Codes. Get your copy today.